It's Connor Olson here, back with another Motivation Monday. Today, man, um, I get to introduce my dad, who is my first example physically of true motivation. My dad is just an amazing man. He's an exceptional leader. The people I've talked to, some of the people that he served in the military with, said they'd follow this man into combat, follow him anywhere. He was really my first example of what it means to be a man. I feel I'm still learning what that means, but um, I'm so blessed to introduce my dad and have him spill some of his wisdom and knowledge, because a lot of what I talk about comes directly from experiences I've had with him. I talked about the bus incident in Disney World, where my dad just had great courage in the midst of a crazy storm and took control of a situation, while other grown men were acting quite cowardly, if I do say so. So, Dad, welcome.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I just felt like maybe we could talk a little bit about not putting so much stock in negative things people say to you throughout your life. You know, when I was a very young child, my first grade teacher told my parents I would never amount to anything.
Oof.
And that stuck with me for most of my life. You get people in your life who want to make you less than what you are. And you have to look internally and believe in everything you do. I was good at sports. I wasn't the biggest kid. I wasn't the fastest kid, but I was dedicated. I liked to play. I liked to compete. I met a lot of good coaches who motivated me. But you always have to remember, for every one person that's going to talk to you in a positive way, there's always going to be 10 others who are going to want to bring you down.
Yep.
They are unhappy in their lives, and misery loves company, and they don't want to see you succeed. You're forced all through life to make choices. You have to look internally and make sure you're making the right choice. A lot of people I associated with when I was in high school ended up in the penitentiary, got in a lot of trouble. I opted to go into the military instead of, continuing down a road that could have led to something a lot worse in my life. And I met a lot of people in the military. Some of them were great people, hard, tough, self-motivated. I got a lot of friends still from my military days, and we're going back now 35 years. It's a long time ago. But you run into people again, and in situations like that, who want to bring you down, who don't, they don't have enough confidence in themselves, and to make themselves look better, they want to make you look bad.
Mm.
I consider myself a self-made man. I never went to college. When I got out of the military, I went into the printing industry and got real high on the ladder of success. And I don't base all success on monetary, because I had opportunities to make a lot more money than I had, but I was at better companies and better people, and I opted, it gave me more time to spend with my family instead of just being at work all the time. Everything in life is about the choices you make, and believing in yourself and not having outside noise trying to belittle the things you do, the things you believe, your faith, your morals, your whole belief system. It's harder to be the guy who goes the opposite. It's easy to conform, and I've told you before, and I'll say it again, how you see, do an experiment, people all in a room, person comes and sits down, and every 3 minutes a buzzer goes off.
Yeah.
Everybody stands up. Everybody's seen that.
Right.
And people look around a couple times, and then they just start standing up. And you have to be an individual. Everything in your life, you have people around you that are positive, and even the people around you are negative, you can get things from them. I mean, I loved my father. He did the best he could, but he taught me what not to do raising my kids. He taught me how to be a better man by doing the opposite of what he did. And that may sound bad, but I believe that, that's all he knew. And you have to be strong enough to break cycles. You have to be strong enough to go within, and, you can do things differently. You don't have to follow somebody else's path. You don't have to follow what societal norms, what they're telling you that you have to, accept this and accept that. I mean, you have to have, good inner moral fiber and do the right thing.
Yeah, can you talk about one of the things I wanted to ask you, because I feel that Jordan and I were raised in such an environment that it really fostered a balance of having, a strong masculine figure and then a feminine figure. Can you talk about, like, especially in today's age, because masculinity gets it's just, people want to throw the word toxic masculinity out there, but can you talk about, like, what masculinity means and, like, what it means to be a man, and you being married for as long as you have? Talk about, like, what's helped you be a better husband and a leader, and just having that courage because when I was a kid, I always, when I was a little kid, and I think this is important, I always felt safe with you. Like, I always felt like, I mean, still to this day, I do as a man, but you were my superhero. I never felt like I was in any danger. I never felt, like, afraid, because I was like, man, my dad can put a mean whooping on somebody. But I knew, even at a young age, like, this guy would really lay down his life for us. I mean, that bus situation, that was a crazy storm. I was like, I felt, and then the SWAT team situation. I remember you and Uncle Joe, took the lead when a SWAT team kicked down, the door of the hotel and flashbangs were going off. I was a kid, and I saw you guys just take leadership in that moment, and like, you can get into that story a little bit, but, like, where does that just lack of fear come from, and that masculine, that healthy masculinity?
Well, I honestly believe the term toxic masculinity is a joke. Being a man, to me, it's phases as you're growing and you learn. You don't go and bully people and push people around, but if you have to defend yourself or defend the people you love, you do it with every ounce of your being, and you're doing the right thing. Being a man is, when you're married to your significant other, and you listen, and you don't discount. You look at who they are and what they say and what they bring to the relationship that's positive, what they bring to the relationship that's negative, and you work through everything together. It's about respect. You respect people who earn your respect. You don't automatically think that you owe somebody respect. Nobody is owed respect. Respect is earned. Mm-hmm. That's part of being masculine. You don't let people push you around. You don't let people bully you. You don't let people bully other people. You step in. I mean, the bully is the worst, and to me, in society. It's the worst man in society.
Right.
Because
I would call that toxic masculinity.
Yeah, and I was going to say that.
Yeah, that's true. Not what we see in the media, but I would call, someone who picks on weaker. I would call that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have with domestic violence. Yeah. Putting your hands on women. I mean, equal rights and everything aside, men are, for the most part, bigger and stronger.
Yeah.
And they carry. They can physically abuse, and whether it's a child or a woman that's just, they're bullies, and it starts young. And I always prided myself as never being a bully. You know, I did what I had to do when I had to do it.
Yeah.
I never walked away. I never was scared. I never was bullied. I always did what I had to do. I remember, and I got that from my father. You know, he was not a big man either. You know, I was never a big man. I'm 5'7", you know, but I was never afraid of anybody. There was no fear. And you don't always have to resort to violence and stuff like that, because a bully, if he knows you're going to fight back, is going to walk away.
Yeah. Because they're cowardly.
Yes.
It's about picking on who they deem as weaker. When someone stands up, that someone such as yourself, they're gonna back down, or they're gonna get a rude awakening.
Yeah.
One question I have for you: what is one thing that you took from your time in the military, your time in the Army, that you use just in your daily life, whether it's professionally or relationship? What's probably the number one lesson you got from being in the Army that you've carried over?
The number, just, I would have to say the regimental lifestyle. And for me, it's, I'm never late. I don't miss work. I live up to my responsibilities. If I tell someone I'm doing something, I do it. I put my brothers and my people first and foremost in everything I do. I'm not the first person. I'm never first. And that's a military thing. You protect your brothers. You protect your brothers in arms. You know, you're the first one over the hill. You're the first one through the door. You don't wait for somebody else to go. That's what it's about. For me, it was always, you know, the people that I'm the closest to, and they know this about me, is, you know, there's nothing they couldn't ask me to do that I wouldn't do.
Wow. We kind of grown together in our relationship as a family, which I think is cool. With our relationship with God, what does your relationship with God mean to you?
Right now, I would say the last 3 or 4 years, you know, when you brought me to a line, it's changed my life. I am a firm believer. I'm born again. I love the fact that I have faith in my life, and I will, you know, continue to live in the eyes of God till the day I die. It's the best thing I've ever done.
And what do you think? So, what are some lessons you learned being a father, raising 2 kids, my older sister and I? What were some lessons there? And then another question I have was, what would your advice to the next generation be? Because we hear all the time anxiety, depression, all this stuff with young men and women. So what would your advice for them be, the people that just kind of have that and are crippled by that?
Well, the first, you know, with raising kids, it's like a mystery every day. Every day is different, and every day is a blessing. And you see things, and, you know, watching you and your sister grow into the adult people you are today, I couldn't be prouder. I mean, you know, I taught you guys what I call the big 3. No lying, respect, no stealing. You pick your battles with everything else, because kids are kids.
Right.
But I never backed off a punishment, you know, and that kept you guys from doing it again. There was no parole.
Yeah.
2 days of good behavior. If you're on the punishment for a week, it stays a week.
Yeah.
The other part of that, the anxiety and the depression, it goes back to being true to yourself, who you are, and not following the herd and not caring what the herd thinks of you. I've spent, I'll say, 55 years since I'm 6 years old. I never cared what anybody thought about me. It was never important to me.
Right.
What was important to me was doing my own thing. That was important to me. I never cared. Anxiety is part of existence. You're going for a new job, you have anxiety. You're meeting your girlfriend's parents for the first time, you have anxiety. That's part of life. Don't make it your sole focus on who you are. Just deal with it. Deal with the fear. Walk tall. That's what and stay away from the the people who keep you down and tell you you're not good enough, tell you you'll never succeed. They don't want that for you because they don't have it for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets lost. Especially I've seen in the younger generation, they feel like they have to, think a certain way, act a certain way, and I never was that way. I was always an outlier. I always believed, always lead, never follow.
Yeah. And it's funny because, with my generation, the generation under me, and it's kind of ironic that I make videos like this because you could go online and make just an anonymous account and say some crazy things online to somebody, but, you probably wouldn't have the guts to say that to someone in person. So like you taught me, the way I look at it is like one of the quotes I remember you always said is you can't please everyone. It's like no matter what you do, you can't please everyone. You could be the best person that's ever, and you still can't please everyone. I mean, they put Jesus on a cross.
Right.
So
I was going to say the best person that ever lived was killed by his own people. So that's
you're going to get scrutinized no matter what. And nobody's perfect like that.
Right. And you always have to remember that you look inside yourself and you decide who you are. Don't let anybody else, social media, and I tell you, I mean, to me, the worst thing that's ever happened to our society is the phones and the social media stuff. And if you'd have told me 25 years ago it would evolve into the crap show it is, excuse my language, I would.
That word's acceptable.
I would have told you you're crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you have people who are real tough when they're typing, who, if you talk to them face to face, they'd be looking at their shoes.
Yeah.
And would have nothing to say.
Keyboard warriors.
Yeah.
I got one last question.
Okay.
I got one last question to tie this all together because, like I said, one of the coolest things I saw growing up, and this is why fathers are so important, and we have a relationship where it's not, we don't get too emotional. Like I was raised by what I would call a true man. Not saying that it's a bad thing, but one of the coolest things as a kid that will always stick with me is telling everybody that my dad's a leader. But cool than that was fearlessness. I've never in my whole 28 years of existence have ever seen my dad afraid. I'm sure there's things that scare him, but I haven't seen it. So like how do you in your own life deal with fear? How do you confront fear? Because I'm sure, I mean, throughout your time in high school with all your crazy stuff, military, I mean, that's a job where your life's at stake if you're, in situations. So like, how do you deal with fear? Like even the fear of death? Like,
well, the thing is that anybody who says they're not afraid is lying, because we're all afraid. We're mortal. We're afraid. I mean, you there's always, but I always, in situations where you are afraid, but your family or people you love or your brothers in arms or whoever are in danger, I always put them first, put the fear aside, and then after the fact, let the emotion out. But in the heat of the battle, in the heat of the moment, you have to put the fear aside. I've always looked at myself as the one who'd jump into the water to save the kid. I'll tell you just a crazy story. Just it kind of ties it in. When I was 16 years old, I was leaving a friend of mine's house. We were all hanging out. You know, he was quarterback of a football team, and I heard a scream. Now this is like 2 a.m. I lived in Tucson. I heard a scream come out of a house. I ran to the house. I heard a scream again. I went right through the front door. Didn't knock. And I walked in because I thought someone was being, abused or, attacked. I was 16 years old.
Yeah.
And, it was a weird family thing going on, but there was no second thought of, what's going to happen to me. Was there fear? Yeah, there was fear. The adrenaline was going.
Yeah.
You always have the fear. I mean, I could have shot me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But in my mind, there was someone being harmed, and I was going to do whatever I could to stop that situation. And I would never not do that.
Learning how to operate with that fear.
Yeah.
And not let the fear control your decisions.
Right.
Your principles and your morals and your standards control your decisions.
You see all these videos now of these, young people getting attacked and beat up, and all you see is people standing around with phones. Back in my day, as us old people tend to say, we didn't stand around. We pulled the people off. We broke it up. We didn't want to see anyone get hurt.
With the risk of your own life.
Yes.
Because you don't know if they got a knife on them, a gun on them,
That was never a thought. And again, it's not that we were fearless and the people I associated with, it wasn't that we were fearless. We knew the difference between right and wrong. We knew that there's a moral obligation to your fellow man. And if you're going to live, as a Christian through Christ, you have to put yourself second.
Yeah.
That's part of it. And that's part of masculinity. Knowing when to put yourself second. Knowing when to put yourself out there to protect somebody else. I've seen things where people talk about they wouldn't do this for their kids, they wouldn't do that for their kids if they were in trouble. I mean, to me, that's ludicrous. I don't even understand it.
Yeah.
I couldn't even see that. You've met a lot of the people that have built long-lasting relationships with, and they're all hard men. And when I talk about hard men, I talk about people who get up and go to work every day, no matter how they feel, to take care of their families, support their families, protect their families in any means necessary.
Awesome. I can't think of a better way to end with that. That was great. Thanks for doing this, man.
I enjoyed it.
I want to do it again. Longer format.
We can. I've got a lot of stories.
Yeah. Sweet. Thanks, man.
All right. Good stuff.